When we imagine samurai battles, we see swords clashing, arrows flying, and warriors locked in deadly combat. But rarely do we stop to think about what happened after the battle was done. How did these warriors survive their wounds? How did they treat shattered bones, deep sword cuts, or infections in an age before modern medicine? The truth is, samurai medicine was a world of tradition, improvisation, and resilience. Medicine in feudal Japan was shaped by three powerful influences: Chinese medical theory, native Japanese remedies, and the brutal realities of the battlefield. Samurai doctors, monks, and even the warriors themselves relied on a mixture of herbal treatments, spiritual rituals, and basic surgery. Their survival often depended on the skill of healers who worked quickly under harsh conditions. When a samurai was wounded in battle, the first step was often to stop the bleeding. Compresses of cloth soaked in herbal mixtures were applied directly to cuts. Plants like mugwort, licorice root, and ginseng were valued for their healing properties. Some herbs were burned to create smoke, which was believed to purify wounds and drive out evil spirits. Ash and powdered minerals were sometimes applied as crude antiseptics. Though primitive by modern standards, these treatments often kept warriors alive long enough to recover. Broken bones were another common injury. Samurai armor could protect against some blows, but the force of spears or falls from horses often left warriors with fractures. Wooden splints were used to immobilize limbs. Bamboo, a strong yet flexible material, was commonly tied around the injured area with cloth. Immobilization gave bones a chance to heal, though recovery was slow. In some cases, warriors returned to battle with twisted or shortened limbs, wearing their injuries as badges of endurance. Arrow wounds posed unique dangers. Removing an arrow required great care. If the arrowhead was barbed, pulling it out the wrong way could cause more damage. Samurai healers developed specialized tools like hollow bamboo tubes to push arrows through wounds or cut them free with minimal tearing. Once removed, the wound was flushed with herbal solutions and packed with poultices to fight infection. Survival depended on both the skill of the healer and the resilience of the warrior. Swords caused even more devastating injuries. A deep slash from a katana could sever muscles or arteries. If the wound was not immediately fatal, healers worked to close it. Stitches were sometimes used, though not with modern needles and thread. Instead, silk or even plant fibers were threaded through bone or skin with crude tools. In less severe cases, wounds were cauterized with heated iron. A painful process, but one that sealed blood vessels and reduced infection. Pain management was another critical part of samurai medicine. Warriors were expected to endure suffering with stoicism, but healers did provide some relief. Herbal teas made from poppy seeds or hemp were used to dull pain. Alcohol, particularly sake, was also given to patients as a crude anesthetic. During surgery or cauterization, warriors often bit down on wooden sticks to endure the agony. Their discipline in bearing pain became part of the samurai ethos itself. Monks played a major role in healing. Buddhist temples often housed medical knowledge preserved in scrolls imported from China. Monks trained in both spiritual and physical healing. They recited sutras while applying treatments, believing that the power of prayer could strengthen the body's natural recovery. For the samurai, physical and spiritual health were inseparable. Illness or injury was not just a physical problem, but a disruption of balance between the body, the spirit, and the world. One of the most dangerous threats to wounded samurai was infection. Without antibiotics, even minor wounds could turn deadly. Japanese healers relied on natural antiseptics. Green tea was applied to wounds for its antibacterial properties. Salt was sprinkled on cuts, and certain tree resins were used to seal injuries. Sometimes wounds were left open to drain naturally, with poultices changed daily. The samurai knew that cleanliness mattered, even if they did not understand microbes. Amputations were rare, but did occur. When a limb was too badly damaged to save, it was cut away with knives or saws. The stump was cauterized to stop bleeding. Few warriors survived such trauma, but some did, continuing to live with honor despite their injuries. These survivors often became symbols of endurance, their scars a living testament to their loyalty. Samurai also faced illnesses beyond the battlefield. Epidemics of smallpox, influenza, and tuberculosis ravaged Japan, and warriors were not immune. Medical texts of the time recommended herbal tonics, rest, and prayers. Quarantine was sometimes practiced, with the sick isolated in small huts. Samurai families relied on community healers, often women or monks, to provide care. Mental health, though rarely discussed in the same terms as today, was also part of samurai life. The pressures of loyalty, fear of death, and the trauma of war left deep scars. Meditation, Zen practice, and ritual discipline helped samurai control their minds. Illnesses of the spirit were treated with prayer, cleansing rituals, and strict adherence to Bushido. Samurai who could not bear the weight of dishonor often turned to seppuku, ritual suicide, as a final form of healing their reputation. Samurai medicine was far from perfect. Many warriors died from wounds that modern doctors would consider treatable. But within their limitations, healers developed systems that saved countless lives. They blended the practical with the spiritual, the physical with the philosophical. To be healed as a samurai was not just to survive, but to return to one's duties with honor. Behind every battle lay a hidden army of healers, monks, herbalists, wives, and even fellow warriors, who patched wounds, set bones, and whispered prayers. Their work was rarely celebrated, but without them, the samurai could not have endured centuries of war. For the samurai, healing did not end when the bleeding stopped. Survival was only the first step. The weeks and months after a battle determined whether a warrior returned to strength, lived with disability, or succumbed to lingering sickness. Long-term care was just as important as a battlefield treatment. Recovery often began with diet. Samurai believed that food could restore balance to the body. Rice gruel mixed with herbs, fish broth, and miso soup were common healing meals. Ginseng and licorice root were given to strengthen the body's energy, while garlic and ginger were used to fight fevers. Green tea, with its cleansing qualities, became both a drink and a medicine. Nutrition was seen not only as sustenance, but as therapy. Rest and isolation were critical. Wounded samurai were often moved into separate quarters within the home, where light and noise were minimized. The idea was to give both the body and spirit time to recover. In Buddhist temples, injured warriors were sometimes housed for weeks, where monks combined herbal treatments with meditation and prayer. Healing was never just physical, it was also spiritual alignment. But not all samurai had the luxury of proper recovery. In prolonged wars, wounded fighters were sometimes sent back to battle too early. This led to chronic pain, crippled limbs, and shortened lives. Still, many wore these scars with pride. A twisted arm or missing fingers were visible proof of sacrifice. These men embodied the idea that service was greater than comfort. One of the unique aspects of samurai medicine was how it blended philosophy with practice. Illness was often viewed as an imbalance of energies, drawn from Chinese yin-yang theory and Japanese Shinto beliefs. Treatments targeted not just the wound, but the spirit. Incense was burned, chants were spoken, and amulets were placed near the patient. To the samurai, healing was as much about courage and faith as it was about herbs and bandages. Mental resilience was also part of recovery. Samurai were expected to face pain with discipline, but trauma lingered. Nightmares, fear, and grief were real burdens. Meditation and Zen practices offered a path to clarity. Warriors sat in silence, breathing deeply, letting their minds accept impermanence. For some, this worked as a form of therapy. For others, the weight of their wounds, physical and emotional, became too great. In such cases, seppuku was sometimes chosen, not just as an escape from shame, but as a way to end suffering with dignity. Over time, samurai medicine evolved. During the Edo period, when Japan enjoyed long peace, medical schools flourished. Texts from China, and later even from the West, introduced new practices. Samurai physicians studied anatomy, surgery, and pharmacology, blending foreign ideas with traditional methods. By the 18th century, some doctors were experimenting with vaccination against smallpox, showing how far Japanese medicine had progressed. Yet, even as science advanced, the warrior spirit shaped healing. Pain was still endured with stoicism. Herbal poultices were still favored alongside newer methods. Samurai medicine was never just about the body. It was about identity. To heal as a samurai meant to recover honor as much as health. The legacy of samurai healing lives on today. Many traditional remedies, such as the use of green tea, ginger, and acupuncture, remain part of Japanese culture. Martial arts schools teach not only combat but also philosophies of health and discipline that stem from samurai traditions. The idea that strength comes from balance of mind, body, and spirit continues to influence Japanese views of wellness. The samurai were warriors, but they were also human. They bled, they suffered, they feared infection, and they endured pain. Their medicine was born of necessity, crafted in temples, homes, and battlefields. It was a fusion of pragmatism and belief, of plants and prayers. And while it could not save every life, it gave countless warriors the chance to stand, fight, and serve once more. In the end, samurai medicine tells us something deeper about their way of life. It shows that behind the glory of battle was a constant struggle to survive. It reveals the quiet heroism of healers and families who kept warriors alive. And it reminds us that even in a world of swords and death, the fight for life was just as fierce.